Morning, everybody. Thanks for coming today. I'm going to talk to you a little bit in this session about link strategy. So how that needs to change, why it should have changed already, but why you absolutely need to be worth talking about. So I'm not going to delve into Panda and Penguin too much. Happy to answer any questions in the breaks or afterwards, but we're going to touch on it. But really this is about what Google have been doing, what we should have been doing, and how we need to adapt our link strategies in the future so that we're actually worth the links we're placing, and that those links are good links. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. So to start with, let's look at how it used to work. So 2004, 2005, 2006, and probably up to 2010, it was all about keywords. How are our pages optimized? Are we using the right keywords in our title tags and our URLs? And that's how we developed our strategy. If we did that, Google would like it, we'd get some really nice rankings, and we'd get traffic. And keywords are still important, but this isn't how we should approach it. So then we started looking at links. Google really valued links. How do we get more links? How do we get the right anchor text variation? How do we get links on the right pages with the right page rank? That's how we're going to get rankings now, and that's how we get our traffic. Dead easy. So all we did was focus on how do we get rankings on Google, and therefore we developed an SEO strategy that allowed us to get rankings. And it worked really well. But the landscape now has completely changed. It's completely been turned on its head, and we now find ourselves in the SEO industry focusing on the wrong things, and that needs to change. So my session today really is looking at the history, but looking at why and then how we change this strategy and start thinking a little bit differently about what we're doing. So as I just said, SEO, we focus on Google, we get our traffic. What do we need to do on Google to get the traffic? This was the historic focus of SEOs, and this is what needs to change. First of all, I think it's really important to understand why it was this way, because it doesn't make any sense. We want traffic, we want to engage people, we want people to come on our site and buy. Why are we so fixated on Google and what they're doing and manipulating their algorithms and looking for scientific methods for manipulating Google? So why were we doing it? So one is it absolutely works. You could go and stuff pages with keywords that you knew users were searching for after you tapped it into the keyword tool. You would build links to a page, landing page, make sure it was perfectly optimized, build as many links as you could from any resource on the web without giving a thought to if anyone would actually read, see, or use that link. And you would place it back to your website and you've got your rankings and you made lots of money. Happy days. It absolutely works. So this is why people took this model. This is why people did what they did. People thought Google was stupid. They would never build an algorithm that would work out that they were buying links on lots of sites, or that they were spamming forums, or it was just too complex for Google to work out. They were never going to get to a stage where they would be able to identify these signals well enough to stop it from working. So people just went along and they did it, and it did work, and it took Google forever to figure this out. That's why people did it as well. Everybody does it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to reap the rewards. When if I get hit, my competitors get hit, we're all in the same boat. I have to do this to compete. So I understand the pressures of that as well. But this is why people did it. But mainly because it was cheap. You can make massive returns from SEO from very little investment. But in the last 3-4 years, it's completely changed. Trying to do SEO right now is a marketing activity, and it shouldn't be cheap. So moving forward, these tactics, this focusing on Google and trying to manipulate and trying to get to the bottom of their algorithm, it doesn't work. It categorically doesn't work. I'm not saying that you won't see spam results in Google. They are a search engine, there is an algorithm, and they will make mistakes. But if you're trying to build a business, it's not going to work. It's not going to future-proof. You're not going to be there in 3 months' time if you aggressively try and manipulate Google. It doesn't work anymore. So very quickly, let's look at the penalties. Now, I've done sessions before, really going into depth about Penguin, disavow tools, and manual actions. I'm not going to do this time, but I am happy to answer any questions at the end. But let's just quickly look at the reasons why this doesn't work anymore. So the first thing we have is that Google are manually reviewing websites. Not just reviewing them from, is this a good website? They're reviewing them from, is this website attempting, or are people using this website in an attempt to manipulate rankings, to put links on there, to spin content on there, whatever it might be, is this website manipulative? If it is, there's usually some kind of trigger. So Google may have discovered the link network. I'm sure a lot of you will have heard of things like Build My Rank and the advertorials that were scrutinized heavily at the beginning of the year, last year. So there's a trigger, there's something they spot, there's a trend. Someone comes along from the web spam team and has a look at it. It then gets reviewed, so somebody sits down and they review these links, these web pages, these websites, and they make a manual decision, a human decision on whether that website is manual. Now they have always done this to a degree, but they're investing more and more in doing this. And this is why it's so difficult to get away with fairly simple spam tactics and why it won't work anymore. If they decide it is manipulative, it is spam, and your website's involved in it, whether you've got a lot of links on the network or you have pages that are just doorway pages, they're no good for a user, they will apply a manual action. And that's gone through various stages and phases where it would turn up as a message in your webmaster tools. I think there was 70,000 sent out at the beginning of 2012, and panicked, and rightfully so. Since then it's moved on, and you now in your webmaster tools account with a manual action will see if you have a partial or a full match manual action against your website. So you can see if Google has spotted something and they're penalising you. You can go away, try and deal with the problem and ask for a review. But this is ultimately why it doesn't work. In a nutshell, Google have kind of realised they can't deal with all spam with a little bit of code and an algorithm. They have to get involved. And once they start getting involved manually, let's be honest, it's not hard to detect a link network. It's dead easy. So there's the manual reviewing of websites and of links and of all the things they're looking for in terms of manipulation. But there's also disavowed data. So people have been penalised. We rightfully want the penalty removing. We put our links in the disavow tool, which are the two Google launched to tell them about manipulative links. And all of a sudden they have millions of websites that are all spam, because we reported them all, which we should have done because we want to recover our website. And they can use that data to spot more trends and to devalue more links. So this is only going to keep getting harder and harder and harder. If your plan is to manipulate, it's going to get the time period for it working, it's going to get shorter and shorter and shorter. It's just not worth it. Devaluation of other signals, anchor text, 2008, 2009, form your website with links that have a certain text in the link, and then you'll get to rank. And you can put that link anywhere, and your website can look like whatever, and it will rank. But not anymore. They've devalued it. Anchor text doesn't have the same call they did. They don't rely on it in the same way. Therefore, it doesn't work anymore. They're discovering networks. So any networks where links have been built, where there's people selling, you put your piece of content on a website and you $10, and you can put as many as you want or roll out as many spun versions, whatever articles, and the content doesn't have to make any sense at all. Google are discovering them. The links are being devalued. If you have links on them, you'll probably see a drop in your rankings. Has anybody here ever seriously read e-Zine articles? Has anyone ever placed a link on e-Zine articles? Exactly. Nobody reads these things. We place them for links. Google crawl them and get the rankings. Top job. Doesn't work anymore though. And because all this is going on and people are being penalised and it hurts, these penalties really, really hurt. They're really hard to deal with. Webmasters are more inclined to report other sites. If you've just had a massive penalty and you have to disavow your links and really, really suffer, and you see a competitor who's doing something manipulative, of course you're going to report them. It's always happened, but it's going to get more and more prominent because you're suffering, your competitors aren't. You will report them. There's no, Google have got it. They've got the formula for killing link spam, and that is penalise people on a serious level and get everybody to report their links, get everybody to report each other, and these signals will die, and they've nailed it. If we're honest, they've got it absolutely right. So we just can't continue, it has to stop. Just to give you a little bit of a visual, to visualize that, unnatural links penalties were rolled out at the beginning of 2012. So there was a message sent in the webmaster tools. That resulted in a manual action, and you lost a lot of rankings. These first round of manual penalties were based on link blog networks that Google had found, and sites that were using them a lot were hit hard by this penalty. It was a real wake-up call for the SEO industry. And this is a chart from Search Metrics. I'm sure some of you use it, and it shows general rankings and visibility. And when that drop first came in, as you can see, massive drop. But then what websites did, they thought it was just a fad. They thought, oh, Google, yeah, okay, they've done it, they're trying to make a point. But they're never going to really figure it out. So all we'll do is we'll go build some more bad links to try and get our rankings back up. We'll just get more links because they're being valued. We'll just get more this manual action, and we'll completely ignore what's going on with Google. The message doesn't mean anything. I've even heard stories of people saying that everybody got them. They just sent to everyone to scare them. It wasn't the case. So they continued with this bad strategy of trying to replace bad links with bad links. And this was actually a competitor of one of our clients. And throughout all this time when they were seeing these increases, our clients were saying, well, they're doing it and it's working. And we have to just keep reassuring them that it will get found out. And of course, bad strategy worked for a period. And then Penguin, they got hit by Penguin. Google updated all this new data, they took on all this information on the disavowed tool eventually, and Penguin hit and they got hit by it again. And my guess is if we do the same thing again, you'll see a similar model, but it will fall quicker and the time period won't be as long. It has to stop. It can't work, we have to change. So I thought it would be good to look at some of the algorithms that have happened over the past few years. Not all of them, but some of them. Because I think it's interesting that while we've been trying to manipulate Google, based on the fact we think Google have this secret formula that they're working with, and they're intentionally trying to deceive SEOs and trick them, and they're really sort of meticulous and working away. This is actually what Google have been doing. It was really interesting to pull these up. So 2009 Vince, an algorithm that seemed to favour big brands, because Google thought users trust big brands. And they probably, I can understand why they thought this. I mean, nobody searches for books anymore. People search for Amazon. So why shouldn't they show these big brands higher? So Google thought, users trust them, therefore we'll try and introduce something that ranks them higher. So it's not about deceiving SEOs or making it more difficult or penalising it. But what do users want to see? Whether or not they got it right or not is a different question, but that was their intention, users. 2010 we had Mayday, which was sites with large-scale, thin, spun content that offered no value, were hit in an attempt to give users a better result. So again, I'm sure sites got caught in this that were genuine websites, but it was in an attempt to give users better results. Again, Google may not have got it right, but their intention was users. Google Instant, I hate this, but Google rolled it out to give faster results for users, again in 2010. Social signals. So Google admitted that they're incorporating data from Facebook and Twitter into their ranking algorithm. Again, they're using user data. They're trying to understand what people want to see at the top of Google. They don't get it right every time, but that's what they're aiming for. Again, Panda, more of the same, 12% of search results affected. Sites saw really big drops, and a lot of sites that were hit were genuinely low value. We've mentioned these articles. These were the type of sites that were hit. There were some innocent sites caught up in this because of the way the algorithm works, but again, it was to give users a better experience. So all this time, when it only went back to 2009, Google were making changes to give users a better experience. Search Plus Your World, more incorporation of Google Plus data. You can see what your friends have clicked on and searched for and the results they've Google Plus One, you can see higher in your search results when you log in. Again, users better experience. Venice, localized results. You want to see results that are local to you. It's about you guys again. We're going to make results better. And Hummingbird recently, which I know Patrick's going to talk about in a lot more detail. But again, it's the same thing. We're understanding keywords better. We know that best means great, and that great means good, and that good could mean luxury. We're understanding these things, therefore you don't have to have a page which is optimized for every single different keyword. We're beginning to understand that. We're beginning to understand user intent. And again, it's about the user. And they've made all these algorithm changes that are based on the user. And as SEOs, and me included, all we've been doing is what they're doing, what they're doing, so how can we manipulate it, how can we get better rankings? If we've been focusing on that, we've been completely off the mark. So this model, Google have always been looking at the user. We need to stop looking at Google. We need to stop looking to try and manipulate Google and start looking at people. Start looking at how we can influence them, how we engage them, and how we build a strategy for them rather than Google. Because ultimately, that's what Google wants. So eventually they will get there. So if we work a similar strategy, we will get there too. And that's what really this session is all about. So what Google think, why are Google making these changes, what's their attitude? Well, here's what I think, and it is my opinion, but here's what I think. If you want to sell on Google, if you want to make money out of Google and use Google's platforms in that way, they want you to pay for it on AdWords, they want you to use Google Shopping or Google Places, they want you to use their paid platforms. If you want to do nothing but sell your products, that's what they want you to do. There are a few exceptions, but that's ultimately what they want you to do. If you want to add value, insight, if you genuinely want to contribute, then SEO is your friend. You can do SEO because that is the kind of thinking, that's the kind of attitude that you need. Now, I know some of you will be thinking, well, Amazon, that's all they do. They're just selling things. What value do they really add? But the fact is, the value they add is that they're the brand that everybody wants to see. But until you become the brand that everybody wants to see, forcing Google to rank you higher, you have to focus on adding value, insight, and contributing. And then, by doing these things and having a real marketing strategy, you'll become the brand that everybody wants to search for and see, and then Google have no choice, they have to rank you. And that should really be your long-term objective. So how do I get to the top of Google? Completely the wrong question. Of course we want to be at the top, that's where the traffic is, that's where we make the money, but it's the wrong question to start your link strategy with, to start your SEO strategy with. The right question is, how do I get so popular that Google have no choice but to rank me at the top? And then when you start asking a question like that, your link strategy, your whole SEO strategy begins to change. And that's where we want to be. So, just to make it absolutely clear, on-site guidelines, they'll always be there. Google is an algorithm, there is a technical side to it, and we will always have to think about these things. As much as we hear their issue with pagination and how we should resolve it. It doesn't make any sense, but we have to look at what they're doing and understand. It will always be important, we will always have to keep on top of it, and we will always have to have a technical plan. But with link strategy, it's not quite as boring. So we're going to talk about that today, and I'm not going to go into the technical side of things just today. Try and look at that picture without yawning. I'm watching you all. So, whether you think it's boring or not, I'm going to talk about off-site link building, or maybe not link strategy, maybe link building is the wrong term, and how we go about that the right way. But there's a reason why. I mean, how many years have people been in SEO here? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 15, whatever. There's a reason why Google don't have any guidelines for link strategy. Why you don't have this big ebook which tells you exactly how you should build your links and what anchor text you should use. And that's because they don't care. They don't want you to know. They don't want to know what their algorithm is doing with links because that's not what matters to them. What they're trying to get to is people. They're not trying to get to a formula which understands links to the degree so that they can give great results. They're trying to understand people so they can give the right results. So they're never going to do this, and that's why they never have done it, and why we shouldn't be focused on it, on building our own link manual, link handbook that helps us manipulate it. So let's talk a little bit about the link strategy then. This slide, David presented it at the beginning, but I just wanted to touch on it a little bit. As I said, we'll leave that slide for now. Andy will be talking on it a bit later, talking about design, satisfaction, and user experience. But ultimately, what I want to say here is there's tons of conversations happening online all the time. And in terms of our link strategy, in terms of our outreach, this is what we need to be aiming for here. We need to be aiming, what are those conversations? How do I genuinely tap into them? How do I get my brand, my business in front of these people how do I engage with them, and then obviously how do I get mentions, links, shares, and all the good stuff off the back. This is the focus here, and it obviously links into social and citations and news and Z-mod, which has been mentioned. I'll talk about a little bit at the end. But that's what we're aiming for. So tactics, they're fine. I'm all for tactics. Strategy without tactics is pointless. So at least people who say don't use tactics, of course you need tactics to make your strategy work. But you have to address your thinking first. So your tactics aren't based on what do I have to do to get to the top, or what do I have to do to get Google to rank me and so on. Some of the questions we should be asking is, who is our audience? Now, most business owners, most people working in marketing will know that question off the top of their head. So that's really easy. Who is the audience? What are they actually interested in? What conversations are they having online? And what do they need answers to? And when we start asking, I'm not saying this is a complete list by any means, but when we start asking questions like this, it takes our link strategy down a different road. We need to become genuinely interested in the people we want to engage and influence. If we're not genuinely interested, we'll fall back into the same routine of putting things on the web that add no value. And when we're adding no value, we've got the wrong strategy. So you have to become interested in your industry, your audience, your customers, in problem solving, in adding value. This is your SEO strategy. You have to become interested in these areas. It isn't enough to say, I need 100 links with the anchor text of credit cards. You have to be interested in this, and that's what drives and pushes your strategy. So focus on their interests. Not on your own, focus on your interests. So you may have the best product in the world. You may think you have the best customer service in the world, and there may be a way to leverage it. You may have something that you think is absolutely fantastic that you need to be pushing out to people. But it's not about you. It's about what these people want to see. It's about what they want to engage with. So you can't be self-centered. Outreach, research, and understand who your audience is and how you use them. And when you do this, you begin asking questions that will make a difference to your campaign. Again, what conversations are people having? What are people missing from their online conversations? What information do they need to know? What do they need to reach? What do people find humorous and funny? It's always good to know that. How else how would you engage with someone you met in the street? You want to know what they liked, what they didn't like, what they found funny. What would people find helpful? What would people find contentious? What are people sharing? What are your audience doing online? Where are they spending their time? And how do I get in front of them? Do that, and the links you place, or the content you place, or whatever it is you're trying to do, will be much better focused, and ultimately will be natural. These are some of the historic questions, and I'm guilty of these myself, in fact. Up until about 2010, maybe a bit longer, I shamefully admit. These are the kind of questions we asked. So, what links do our competitors have? We'd use a tool that listed our links against our competitors, and then we'd just fill in all the gaps, and it was very sort of scientific and brilliant. We've done our link strategy. And again, it worked. I was there, I'm not mocking it too much, even though it sounds a bit silly reading these out now. What anchor text is best for Google? What do Google want to see? Is there a secret formula? Do I need 10% brand, 10% brand variation, 5% exact? And how this formula, it's the wrong focus, it's completely the wrong thing. What is the ideal page rank for a link? None. The ideal link is one that is in front of the people you want it to be in front of, that can actually drive traffic. Do people prefer in-content links? Do Google, prefer in-content links? Who cares? Will Google penalise you for paid sidebar links? It's just the wrong. They may well penalise you for paid sidebar links, and it may matter if you have them. But in terms of developing a link strategy, it's completely the wrong questions. And there's a link better at the top of the page than the bottom. Believe it or not, that was a question that many people would ask and talk about. It's really embarrassing doing this now. I feel like hanging my head in shame. But this is what people did, and this is what we saw, and it worked. Brilliant. And we had long conversations about anchor text and if the balance was right. And this wasn't that long ago. We addressed the balance, we got higher rankings. It was brilliant. It was a formula for success on Google. We would just come along and say, no, not anymore. So we need to get rid of these, ask these, and develop a real strategy. Because ultimately, Google don't want to know about formulas. Google don't want to know about what makes the best link strategy and what should be placed in the search results based on an algorithm or a formula. Google wants to know about people and what people want to see at the top of Google. That's what we need to focus on. So let's talk tactics. As I said, I'm not averse to tactics. I'm not one of these brands on SEO tactics. Of course, if you have a strategy based on good thinking, you need tactics to make it a reality. So let's talk about a few of these. I can't go through everything, but let's talk about a few of them now. Find loads of time. Spend a bit of time on this. So, tactic number one. Google's talked about paid links forever. Why you shouldn't buy them, why they're bad, and why you'll get penalised if you do. So, let's try and not pay for them. And there will always be instances where money comes into any marketing activity, but don't pay for links, pay for the start. What we do at Brand 3 is very often when we're working with somebody, we will look and say, well, who is the star in this industry? And you can go on Twitter and you can find who's got the biggest following, who's engaging people more, whose follower wants to find it out. You can go on Facebook, you can check popular blogs. How do I get them to write for my site? And you can pay them, and you'll be surprised at how many will accept money to write for your site. There's nothing wrong with that. That's not against Google's guidelines. That's bringing more exposure to your website. That's almost like advertising. Bring them right on your site, and you know what? The link building will take care of itself. They will naturally share it. They will naturally tell their audience about it, and it will naturally get linked to and mentioned. It just will. It just will. So you get all this good stuff. You get all the shares. You get all the mentions. You get all this activity going on around your business and brand if you manage to sign up to start. You also get links as well. It's just completely natural. We run this strategy with a number of clients, and we pick up links just by getting them to paying them to write an article and come on board. We're buying their audience, and because they are who they are, people will talk about them, people will link to them, people will mention them, people will share what they have to say. In terms of what we build, and there's a lot about content strategy. I'm not going to talk about that so much today. I think Patrick's touching on it a bit later. But if we build something that is contentious, has value, is humorous, and this was actually a flash game that was built not by us, I might add that it was built nevertheless, and it was contentious at the time. Why not use cheap, well it doesn't have to be cheap, but paid media to start the ball rolling? If you've got the right piece of content, it can be quite easy to make this happen. So we use things for this one like Reddit, StumbleUpon, pay for it that way to get it going. Within 2 days, it was being shared without any influence, without any payments by itself. And I think it generates sort of in the region of 20 to 30 linking websites that we have nothing to do with. It didn't influence any anchor text or anything like that. And even though it might not necessarily be in front of the target audience, it did appeal to an audience. And those things were perfectly natural. So we got 20, 30 linking events for about $50. And we didn't do anything other than hijack the game that was already built. Could have been better, absolutely. As I said, we didn't build it, so I'm not going to take credit for the actual game. But yeah, absolutely. Paid media equals earned links. If you've got something good enough, then pay to get it out there. You might not be the most popular brand business person in the world at the minute, but if you've got awesome stuff on your website, or you've got an awesome product or an awesome piece of content, pay to get it out there. Put your money where your mouth is, so to speak, and you will get links off the back of it eventually. Have a sense of humour. Again, it doesn't necessarily have to be somebody you're trying to sell to, but do something that appeals to an audience. Show that you have a personality as a business. This again was an infographic piece that we did for an injury law firm. Really difficult subject to talk about. Not even the newspapers want to link to it unless they're slating it. So we did a fun piece, and we worked in line with a very popular website, and we let them help us design it, made them feel important. We were interested in what they thought. Again, interested in people. Pushed this out, we got their backing, some great shares, some great links, and for an injury law website, it was a success. If it had been another website, it would probably been 10, 20 times bigger. But that's what we're working. So have a sense that you can do things that don't necessarily appeal to the people you're trying to sell to, but appeal to an audience on the web. It doesn't have to be always about who your target audience is, but who is the target audience you want the content to reach. Something really, really simple. Have an opinion. You work in an industry, I'm sure you're really, really passionate about it, and then someone within the business will have an opinion. We have loads of them. We're in SEO, so everybody's got an opinion. Of course, only mine's right. But everybody's got an opinion. So take it out there and give it to people. Give it to journalists. Give it to bloggers. If they've written something recently, find out what that was, and say, well, actually, I've got a different angle. Are you interested in talking about it? You'll be surprised how easy that can be. It depends on the industry again, but get the quote in there, and get the link, get the reference. It's completely natural. A natural way of getting it. It's dead easy to do. You should be monitoring mentions. It's all about me, isn't it? You should be monitoring mentions of your name, of your brand, of your business. Anyway, who is talking about you? Maybe yourself, and then I've got some words to you, but people will be mentioning something in your industry. Maybe not your brand or your business, but something in the industry. You will have an opinion on it. Reach out and share that opinion. These kind of links that we're talking about, this kind of way of doing SEO, it doesn't matter that you don't hit your 100 links a month target. These links are better than 100 links a month. These are the kind of links that will be there and that will count, not just today, but in a year, 2 years, 3 years time. So focusing on your audience means that you can forget about your products to a degree. Don't say that to your MD or CEO, but it does. It means in your strategy, you don't have to be thinking all the time about how much I can sell or how many sign-ups I can get. You can start to focus on your audience or on the audience you want to reach and build things and engage with them in the way they want to be engaged with. And that is where the focus should be. So again, this is something we did. We worked with a bingo provider, and we thought, nobody's talking about bingo. We did a little bit of social listening and various pieces of research, and we came to the conclusion that no one really talks about bingo unless they're playing it and it's in the chat on the right-hand side or in certain bingo forums. But generally, for where we want to be positioned, nobody's talking about it. But after the research, we came to the conclusion that what the audience we were trying to attract, I think in this case was 19 to 35-year-old females, and there was a group 55 to 60. What they were all talking about, what they were absolutely obsessed with, and I don't get it at all, but soap operas. That's all they tweeted about on the night from the hours of sort of 5 o'clock till 9 o'clock. Reality TV, soap operas, depressing. But that's what they were interested in. So we thought, well, we'll go out and we'll have a bit of fun and we'll build something for them. Something that they're interested in, something that they can talk about, something that can be linked to. And it was just a very simple game where you answered a string of questions designed awesomely, Andy. A string of questions, and it told you which soap star you were. And I'm not going to tell you who I was, but it's not correct, it's just a bit of fun, obviously. But that's what it did. It was brilliant, and it got people talking, it got people sharing it, it got us the links that we want for SEO. And again, it just means being a bit creative and investing in the right areas. Now, you could have got links in other ways. You could have gone out and bought them and invested in just paying bloggers to place the links or paying websites to place the links. Those links won't last. And instead, all you need to do is invest in the content. So do your research and operate your findings. Your industry will be full of data. You may even have some. You may have a lot. Do your research and operate your findings. People are always interested in data and stats and opinions. You can share that. So do that. So we run a lot of surveys, and we'll identify an audience and we'll run a survey and we'll get some interesting stats back. And everybody wants to speak about it. If you can offer somebody a stat or a particular unique piece of information, again, it's easy to get than what you think. You'll be surprised how many people online are receptive to it. Not just bloggers or not just money bloggers, that's who everyone seems to target, but high-end websites, big publishing sites and journalists you can get. If you've got the right, again, to that, the right strategy and the right information, well, it can work for you. And ultimately, what we're talking about here is getting you, your business, into the conversation. You have to know what conversations are happening online, and you need to be, if not at the center of it, you need to be a part of it. If you're not a part of it, and nobody's talking about you, and you're doing nothing to be worth talking about, you're going to really, really struggle with SEO. So we have to put you at the center, whether that's through your content, whether you've got some awesome social ideas or engagement plans, whether it's PR or a creative piece that you're looking to develop, there has to be something that you're doing to put you in that conversation. It might be that other parts of the business that are already doing things like this. It's just that SEO has been that silo, you know nothing about it, or you don't want to be involved in it, or you still think there's a secret formula to make it happen. But no, you need to be a part of it. And whether you're creating this stuff or you're, for want of a better term, hijacking it and getting involved and making it work from an SEO, from a digital point of view, absolutely need to do it. And as we've said already, it feeds this zero moment of truth. When people are researching and looking at resources online, why shouldn't your links be at the center of it? So it's a strategy that meets multiple objectives. If you think about your link building in this way, it will meet multiple objectives. It will activate conversation around your business, get people talking, because if they're not talking, you won't get links, and you'll never have natural links, as the title suggests. It puts you in front of your target audience. So again, it's putting you out there, it's making people see your brand, interact with your brand, hopefully click through on those links to the website. It could be a traffic driver as well. It encourages and increases brand search. I think this is so important. How many people are actually searching for your business in line with maybe the products, the keywords that you want to be found on? How many people are searching for it? Very often we'll speak with clients and their positions really want to be position 1. But the site in position 1, although it might have less links or less domain authority or page rank, it gets 4 or 5 times more people searching for them on Google. That has got to be a massive signal to Google that people want that website, people want that brand, people are talking about that business. You have to have a strategy, and it's not all down to your SEO strategy, but it has to feed into increasing these mentions, increasing people talking about your brand. It generates shares and likes, which again are good. We know Google incorporating those social signals. We didn't start at that point to our social signals, but it will generate them. It allows you to truly engage people and build relationships, and usually that are long-lasting. Relationships that you can use again, and you can talk to, and you can keep engaging. And therefore, the more you do this, and the more you carry out this strategy, the easier your SEO or link strategy efforts will be. And it puts you in the DMOT moment. So again, just a quick refresh. I know we've seen it already, but if people are going to be looking at 10 resources, you want to be in at least one of them. And why shouldn't your link strategy play into that moment? Why shouldn't you be looking to have people review you? Why shouldn't you have a popular blog with your brand and your business there that people might be looking at when they're trying to make a decision about buying your products and your services? Absolutely. Another objective met from your link building. So I'm just about out of time, so just to summarise really, really quickly, you need to put real effort into becoming the best result. I'm not going to go into that too much with Patrick. He's going to talk about that later, and Andy probably more so. You have to be the best result. If you can't rank highly anymore and be a rubbish result, be rubbish for the user, Google will pick up on it, and you can soon get your rankings if you haven't already. You need to be interested in people. For your link strategy at least, forget Google. What do people want to see? What do people talk about? And what is likely to get people talking about my business? Be worth talking about. It doesn't have to be an infographic. I know that you've done endlessly, but what would make your business and brand worth talking about? Think about your audience. What would make you worth talking about? And talk in terms of your audience interests. Even though you might have your own agenda, force yourself to talk in terms of their interests and decide how you can make it to reach. Ultimately, what you need to do, and what Google wants you to do, is add value. And if you're not looking to add value, and you're not looking to find who your audience is, and you're not interested in engaging them online, SEO probably isn't going to work. Definitely, in my opinion, not going to work moving forward. So that's everything from me. I think I'm just about out of time. We will have questions at the end, but please, I'd love to speak with you, so just come to me in the intervals. But thank you very much.